Okay, so I just mentioned that the difference in how the difference in the role our political economy played in the way our presidents thought about citizenship, um, from FDR to George W. Bush, and the two most important crises that we had probably in modern American history, the bombing of Pearl Harbor and the declaration of war, where President Roosevelt says it's time for us to give up our creature comforts. We need to come together and sacrifice and fight this war. 9/11, the greatest attack since Pearl Harbor. The president essentially says, go out and shop, go out on vacation, go out, go to Disney World. I mean, President Bush actually at that airport when he gave that speech said people should go to Disney World, people should go shop. Don't let them bring our economy to a standstill. And what that says is, in the late 1930s, early 1940s, our economy was consumer oriented, but it still had a strong manufacturing base. Just after 9/11, our economy had almost no manufacturing base and was hugely oriented toward a consumer-oriented economy. And so the idea that we could sacrifice post 9/11 and help the greater good didn't even occur to President Bush and many other leaders, because that actually would have undermined our economy. What we wanted is people to go out and consume, because that would make our economy strong. So it's a complete shift in our political economy. Even during the Cold War, right? The idea of being able to shop was seen as a part of our battle against the Soviet Union during the Cold War. There's a very famous meeting between then Vice President Richard Nixon and the Premier of the Soviet Union, Nikita Khrushchev. This is in 1957 at the American National Exhibit in Moscow, where Vice President Nixon is showing the leader of the Soviet Union new houses that are being built all over America. They're model homes there. And he's telling the Soviet premier, this is the way we think of freedom. Americans can buy any kind of home they want. He's showing them this home. Americans can buy any kind of home they want. They can choose between 1,000 different kind of builders, 1,000 different kind of homes. They can choose different kind of washers and dryers to put in them. This is the way we see freedom. This is the way freedom is manifested in a free democracy. And so Vice President Nixon is equating consumer-oriented political economy, individual choice, and the idea that you can buy anything you want, with democratic freedom, with political freedom. And he was contrasting that with the Soviet Union, that at the time was a planned economy. If people were going to buy a car, they were going to wait for one, and there were two different kinds, and it was a completely different kind of economy. So think about the kind of civic participation that a consumer-oriented economy encourages. Think about the kind of civic participation that a political economy, the institution political economy, encourages, that is agrarian and versus that is consumer-oriented. We have a very, very small agrarian political economy anymore, even though we record numbers, economic numbers in terms of non-farm jobs and etc. We don't really have much of a consumer-oriented political economy that's agrarian anymore. We have a consumer-oriented political economy. It encourages us to think about ourselves, to think about what we want, to think about what we desire, what we need. It doesn't really encourage us to think about other people, and when we do think about other people, we think about it in the context of what did they get, or what can I give them, and things like that. And so it encourages us to think about civic behavior that's more self-interested. It's the institution encourages that. And unlike the institution of citizenship that has a socializing agent that is the educational system, encouraging us to also think about citizenship in the context of duties and responsibilities, there's no socializing agent that encourages us to think about that encourages us to think about the institution of the political economy in a civic duty-oriented way. And it literally is almost impossible to find messages of civic duty embedded in the political economy that encourages us to think about ourselves and what we want. And we get these messages all over the place when we watch television, when we look at the internet, advertising. All of this encourages us to think about ourselves, what we want, consumer goods, consumer-oriented goods. And when we have this consumer-oriented society that is organized around a consumer economy, an institution that is consumer-oriented, it's hard to get alternative messages through that essentially say civic duty, civic duty, civic duty. So the institution of the political economy encourages self-interested behavior probably more, I would argue, than the institution of citizenship does. We think about ourselves self-interestedly through citizenship, but we have that counter message that is civic duty. You should vote, do your duty. We don't have the counter message in the political economy at all. When I come back next, I'm going to talk about the institution of government, and what has happened over 200 years and how that's affected our civic behavior.